Jacqueline Smith and her husband Keith were driving home from a night out dancing.
It was just a beautiful night.
Celebrating their daughter's birthday when they saw a woman in need, carrying what looked to be an infant in her arms, in the rain, holding a sign that read, "Please help me feed my baby."
My wife felt moved to give her some money.
When Jacqueline rolled down the passenger window to give the woman money, a man approached to thank her, but then stabbed the 54-year-old mother and engineer to death, stealing her necklace and wallet before the pair ran away.
I'm from Baltimore. The last thing I thought that they were going to take my wife's life. And so now I got to live with that. I got to live with that every day.
On December 1st, 2018, a shocking crime took place in Baltimore, Maryland. Jacqueline Smith, a 54-year-old electrical engineer and devoted mother, was stabbed multiple times while sitting in the passenger seat of her car. The attack was reported by her husband, Keith Smith, who told police that his wife had been murdered by a panhandler while she was trying to help a woman holding a baby on the street. According to Keith's initial statement, he had been driving through East Baltimore around midnight with his wife and his daughter, Valeria Smith, after attending Valeria's birthday celebration. As they approached an intersection, they spotted a woman standing on the sidewalk, holding a sign that read, "Please help me feed my baby." Moved by compassion, Jacqueline rolled down her window to offer $10 to the woman. At that moment, Keith claimed that a man suddenly approached the vehicle, reaching inside to grab the money. Instead of simply taking the cash, the man allegedly pulled out a knife and stabbed Jacqueline multiple times before snatching her purse and necklace.
3 blocks away, it was a girl out with like a baby in her arms. It was like drizzling, it was cold, and my wife just felt moved to give her something. So at the stop sign, she waved her over to come on over to the car, and then out of nowhere, some guy came over while walking with her. And I hit my window, and Jacqueline went to hand the money out, and the guy just leaned over and said, "Can I thank your wife?" And I said, "You can thank my wife." And within that split second, this guy commenced to stabbing my wife. He snatched her necklace off her neck, and the girl snatched the pocketbook, and they all both ran into some basketball court. Before I knew it, I jumped out my car to run after him, but then I came back because my wife needed me more.
Did you even know she was stabbed at them?
It happened so quick that when I looked and seen all I did was slam it in park to go chase these people. But then when I seen how my wife was screaming, I came back because I could have caught one of them, but the police told me that wouldn't have been wise to chase a suspect because you don't know where you're running to. So I don't know.
So you didn't even know your wife was hurt until you heard her
scream? Yeah, no. I knew she was stabbed. Okay. Definitely, yeah. Blood was everywhere. It was something that it was horrific for something like that to happen. But I'm right now just absorbing all of it, and trying to see how I can move past this. But I'm not gonna move past this until I talk to whoever my congressman is about banning panhandling.
You want the city to make a change here.
I want the city.
You're already beginning to see that.
I'm already seeing it. Because now from this tragedy with my wife, I don't even look at panhandlers the same way. I look at them as a threat to my life now.
The two suspects, the woman with the baby and the male attacker, then ran off into the night, leaving the family in shock. Keith immediately called 911, and he and Valeria rushed Jacqueline to Johns Hopkins Hospital. Despite their efforts, she succumbed to her injuries, leaving her family, friends, and colleagues devastated. The story of Jacqueline's tragic death spread quickly, drawing national media attention. The idea that a Good Samaritan was brutally murdered while trying to help someone in need struck a chord with many. The case ignited public debates about safety, crime in urban areas, and the risks of assisting panhandlers. It also led to renewed discussions about whether laws should be passed to restrict panhandling at busy intersections. Keith, appearing as a grieving husband, gave multiple interviews in the days following Jacqueline's death. He urged others to think twice before rolling down their car windows to help strangers. His warnings sparked fear in Baltimore and beyond, reinforcing stereotypes about homelessness and street crime. Even high-profile figures, such as Oprah Winfrey, reacted to the case, Oprah tweeted that she had often given money to people on the street, but would think twice before doing so again. As the story gained momentum, Baltimore police launched an intense investigation into the crime. However, as detectives began looking into the details, they found something troubling. There were no witnesses, no surveillance footage, and no evidence to confirm Keith's version of events. The location of the alleged attack was also suspicious, as it was not known for panhandling activity. What started as a tragic story of a senseless murder soon took a shocking turn. Investigators began to question whether the crime happened the way Keith had described, or if something much more disturbing was at play. Welcome to the Crime Series. I am glad to have you join us on another video. Kindly subscribe, like, and share. Let me know where you are watching from. Jacqueline Smith was born on July 4, 1964, in Providence, Rhode Island. From a young age, she exhibited a strong work ethic and an innate curiosity for problem-solving, which later led her to pursue a career in electrical engineering. She excelled academically and was known for her determination to create a better future for herself and those around her. Education was a priority in her household, and she thrived in subjects related to math and science. After completing high school, Jacqueline pursued a degree in electrical engineering, a field that at the time had relatively few women. Despite the challenges of being in a male-dominated industry, she quickly gained recognition for her intelligence and perseverance. Her passion for innovation and technology set her apart, and she was determined to make a meaningful impact. Jacqueline eventually secured a prestigious position at Aberdeen Proving Ground, a U.S. Army research and development facility in Maryland. The base is known for testing and developing advanced military technologies, and Jacqueline's work as an electrical engineer contributed to critical defense projects. Her expertise, attention to detail, and ability to troubleshoot complex systems earned her respect among her colleagues. Her co-workers described her as a dedicated, hardworking, and meticulous professional. Beyond her technical skills, she was known for her compassion and generosity, always willing to mentor younger engineers or lend a helping hand when someone needed guidance. Outside of work, Jacqueline was a devoted mother. She had 2 adult sons from a previous relationship, both of whom she raised with strong values of education and responsibility. One of her sons pursued a college degree, while the other joined the U.S. Coast Guard, a reflection of the family's commitment to service and discipline. Keith Tyrone Smith was born and raised in Aberdeen, Maryland. Unlike Jacqueline, whose career in electrical engineering was well documented, Keith's professional background remains largely ambiguous. Prior to meeting Jacqueline, Keith had been in previous relationships, one of which resulted in the birth of his daughter, Valeria Smith. Though little is publicly known about his early career, there is no record of him holding a stable, long-term job in any professional field. Financial struggles were a recurring theme in his life, and he often relied on others to support him. Keith's daughter, Valeria, had a troubled past, marked by issues with substance abuse and legal troubles. Reports indicate that she had a history of violent outbursts, including an incident involving a knife in a domestic dispute. Despite these red flags, Keith remained deeply connected to Valeria and played a significant role in her life. Their relationship, however, raised concerns among those who knew them, as it appeared to be more of an alliance than a traditional father-daughter dynamic. In the fall of 2013, Keith met Jacqueline at a mutual friend's birthday party. Their relationship progressed rapidly, and within 9 months, they were married. While friends and family celebrated the union, some of Jacqueline's loved ones expressed concerns about the quick pace of their relationship. Once married, Keith moved into Jacqueline's home and enjoyed the financial benefits that came with her stable career. Jacqueline was the primary earner, funding not only their household expenses but also Keith's lifestyle. During their 4-year marriage, they made large purchases, including cars and even a yacht. However, financial records later revealed that much of this high life was being funded solely by Jacqueline. Behind the scenes, their marriage was not as perfect as it appeared. By 2018, Jacqueline was reportedly considering divorce. She had confided in friends about her dissatisfaction and had begun taking steps to regain control of her finances. Unbeknownst to her, this decision would put her life in danger. Keith's dependence on Jacqueline's wealth, coupled with the threat of losing access to it, would become the driving force behind a calculated and premeditated plan, one that would ultimately end in tragedy. Baltimore police initiated their investigation immediately after Keith Smith's 911 call on December 1, 2018. He described a horrifying scene. His wife, Jacqueline Smith, had been stabbed in their car while offering money to a panhandler holding a baby. The alleged attackers, a man and a woman, had supposedly fled the scene after robbing Jacqueline of her purse and necklace. This story struck a nerve in the public consciousness, igniting widespread fear and debate about the dangers of urban environments. The idea of a selfless Good Samaritan being killed for her kindness led to a surge in discussions on whether people should assist panhandlers. The case quickly gained national attention, with news outlets covering the tragedy and influential figures, including Oprah Winfrey, expressing concerns about personal safety. The media frenzy around the case placed intense pressure on law enforcement to identify and apprehend the suspects Keith described. However, as police started investigating the crime scene and collecting evidence, they found inconsistencies that raised doubts about Keith's account. No witnesses. The location Keith described, a dimly lit street near East Baltimore, was not a known gathering place for panhandlers, and no witnesses came forward to corroborate his story. No surveillance footage. Baltimore is a city with extensive CCTV surveillance, especially in high-traffic areas. Despite checking dozens of cameras along the supposed route, police found no footage of the attack or any evidence of panhandlers at the scene. No blood trail or signs of a struggle. Officers expected to find evidence of a violent altercation at the intersection where Keith claimed the stabbing occurred. Yet, they discovered no blood, no weapon, and no personal belongings scattered at the scene. As detectives questioned Keith, they noticed contradictions in his version of events. He initially claimed the male attacker had stolen Jacqueline's purse, but later changed his story, saying it was the woman who took it. He also gave conflicting descriptions of the attackers, making it difficult for authorities to construct an accurate profile. Additionally, when asked to retrace his route from the event venue to their home, Keith appeared uncertain and hesitant, at times contradicting himself. Investigators found this unusual, as it was a neighborhood he should have been familiar with. The case caused widespread panic in Baltimore. Many residents expressed concerns about safety, and local officials debated measures to curb panhandling. Keith himself became an advocate for anti-panhandling laws, appearing in interviews to call for stronger policies against street begging. His vocal stance on the issue added to the urgency of the case, but it also aroused suspicion. Why was he pushing so hard for a policy change instead of focusing on justice for his wife? As police continued their investigation, the evidence, or lack thereof, began pointing to a different conclusion. The possibility that this tragic murder was not random, but instead an orchestrated act, became increasingly likely. If you found this story compelling and appreciate the way we bring real-life cases to you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue to uncover the truth and share these important stories. Like, share, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going. While the lack of external evidence was concerning, forensic analysis provided even more damning proof against Keith. Crime scene investigators conducted a thorough examination of the Smiths' vehicle. They expected to find some trace of an external attacker, such as fingerprints, foreign DNA, or signs of forced entry. However, they found no such evidence. Instead, forensic tests on Jacqueline's clothing and personal belongings revealed something unexpected. All the DNA present belonged to people inside the car. No unknown DNA, such as that of a panhandler or attacker, was detected on her clothes, jewelry, or purse. If she had been grabbed or assaulted by a stranger, forensic experts believed some trace of the attacker would have been left behind. The absence of any foreign DNA contradicted Keith's claim of an external assailant. Further analysis of Jacqueline's injuries also raised questions. She had suffered wounds, but the angle and pattern of the wounds were inconsistent with an attack by someone reaching into the car from the outside. Instead, they suggested that she had been stabbed at close range by someone seated beside her or inside the vehicle. This reinforced the theory that the attack was not random but premeditated. Most revealing was the discovery of Keith Smith's DNA under Jacqueline's fingernails. This suggested that she had tried to fight off her attacker and that her struggle involved someone close to her, likely inside the car. The presence of Keith's DNA in this way made it clear that Jacqueline had tried to defend herself from an attack within the vehicle, rather than from an unknown assailant outside. With forensic evidence contradicting Keith's story and surveillance footage proving his statements false, investigators had enough grounds to formally consider him and his daughter Valeria as prime suspects. The case, which initially appeared to be an unfortunate random crime, was now shifting toward an entirely different narrative. For months, Keith Smith had maintained a public facade of a grieving husband, pleading for justice for his murdered wife, Jacqueline Smith. As law enforcement closed in, Keith seemed to sense the growing suspicion around him. He began liquidating assets, packing his belongings, and severing ties in Maryland. He arranged for a moving truck for a fresh start in Florida. However, instead of heading to Florida, he and Valeria took a drastically different route, toward the southern border. Keith's travel patterns became erratic. Investigators later uncovered that he had made multiple attempts to book flights out of the country, first to Canada and then to Cuba. However, without a valid passport, these attempts failed. Desperate to evade authorities, he turned to an alternate plan, crossing into Mexico undetected. Keith rented a car in Texas, a move that immediately alerted law enforcement. Authorities were closely monitoring his movements, knowing that if he crossed the border, bringing him to justice would become significantly more complicated. On March 3, 2019, Baltimore authorities issued an arrest warrant for both Keith and Valeria Smith. By this time, the father-daughter duo had made it to Texas and were just 20 minutes away from the Mexican border when Texas State Police, acting on intelligence from Baltimore investigators, moved in. The arrest was swift, and Keith and Valeria were taken into custody without incident. Their capture was a pivotal moment in the case. Up until then, the public had largely accepted Keith's version of events, that Jacqueline had been a victim of a violent robbery by two desperate panhandlers. However, his attempted escape raised significant red flags, leading many to question why an innocent man would go to such great lengths to flee. The dramatic circumstances of the arrest reignited media attention, and soon, the case that had once been seen as a tragic but random act of street violence transformed into a chilling story of betrayal. The revelation that Keith and Valeria had fabricated the panhandler attack sent shockwaves through the community. News outlets across the country picked up the story, dissecting the inconsistencies in Keith's statements and revisiting previous interviews where he had condemned panhandlers as dangerous criminals. The realization that he had used a fabricated narrative to manipulate public sympathy and even push for anti-panhandling laws angered many, particularly those who had rallied behind him. Social media erupted with outrage. Many were horrified that Keith had not only murdered his wife, but had also exploited public goodwill and trust to cover up his crime. Activists who worked with the homeless community condemned his actions, stating that his fabricated story had fueled harmful stereotypes and made life even more difficult for those experiencing real hardship on the streets. Following their arrest, Keith and Valeria were extradited to Baltimore to face charges. Keith was charged with first-degree murder, while Valeria, though not accused of carrying out the killing, was charged as an accessory after the fact. Prosecutors alleged that Keith had murdered Jacqueline for financial gain, intending to cash in on her life insurance policy, on which he was the sole beneficiary. They also accused Valeria of assisting her father in covering up the crime by disposing of evidence and helping construct the false narrative of a panhandler attack. During interrogations, both Keith and Valeria initially stuck to their original story. However, under pressure, their versions of events began to diverge. Detectives noted that Valeria, in particular, appeared nervous and conflicted. Eventually, she broke down and provided key details that further implicated her father. Faced with the reality that the evidence against her was overwhelming, Valeria made a crucial decision. She agreed to cooperate in exchange for a plea deal. Sitting before detectives, she finally admitted what investigators had long suspected. The panhandler story was a lie. According to Valeria, Keith had planned Jacqueline's murder well in advance. He had spoken of financial difficulties, his frustration over Jacqueline's desire for a divorce, and most damningly, his desperation to claim her life insurance policy. Jacqueline had recently changed her beneficiary, but Keith still believed he could manipulate the system and access the funds. On the night of November 30th, 2018, after leaving Valeria's birthday celebration, Keith did not drive toward their home as previously claimed. Instead, he deliberately diverted their route, heading toward Druid Hill Park. It was there, in the dark seclusion of the park, that he made his move. Valeria described how her stepmother was seated in the passenger seat, unsuspecting and likely reflecting on the joyful evening they had just spent together. Then, in a shocking act of violence, Keith attacked Jacqueline, stabbing her multiple times as she fought for her life. Though Valeria did not physically take part in the murder, her involvement in its aftermath was undeniable. At her father's direction, she helped dispose of key evidence, including Jacqueline's purse and wallet. They discarded these items in a way that would later mislead authorities, attempting to reinforce the false narrative of a robbery gone wrong. She also confirmed that after Jacqueline was murdered, Keith meticulously staged the crime to make it appear as if they had been attacked by strangers. He coached Valeria on what to say, drilling into her the importance of sticking to their fabricated story. For weeks, she upheld the lie, appearing on news broadcasts, shedding tears, and pleading for justice for a crime that never happened. However, as investigators intensified their scrutiny, Valeria's mental and emotional state deteriorated. The guilt, the pressure, and the growing suspicion surrounding them became unbearable. Eventually, she realized that her father was willing to sacrifice her to save himself. Fearing that she would take the fall for the entire crime, she decided to tell the truth. Keith Smith was charged with first-degree murder following the extensive investigation into the brutal killing of his wife, Jacqueline Smith. Prosecutors meticulously built a case against him, arguing that his primary motive for the crime was financial gain. Specifically, they alleged that Keith orchestrated Jacqueline's murder to claim her life insurance policy, which was valued at $804,000. The prosecution painted a damning picture of a man willing to betray the trust of his wife, his community, and even his own daughter for personal financial benefit. During the trial, the prosecution laid out a carefully constructed narrative of premeditation. They presented evidence that Keith had researched and planned the murder months in advance. The prosecution emphasized that Keith had deliberately misled law enforcement and the public with the false panhandler story, fabricating an elaborate deception to cover up his role in Jacqueline's death. Further analysis of Keith's cell phone data and financial records played a crucial role in dismantling his fabricated narrative. One of the most pivotal moments in the trial came when Keith's daughter, Valeria Smith, testified against him as part of a plea deal. Valeria's testimony was devastating for Keith's defense, as it directly contradicted his initial version of events and provided prosecutors with key details about the crime. Keith Smith's legal team attempted to cast doubt on Valeria's credibility, arguing that she was just as involved in the crime as her father and had a reason to shift blame onto him. They pointed out her history of mental health struggles and substance abuse, questioning whether she was a reliable witness. The defense also suggested that there was insufficient physical evidence directly tying Keith to Jacqueline's murder. However, the overwhelming digital, forensic, and circumstantial evidence, combined with Valeria's detailed testimony, made the defense's arguments weak in comparison. The jury found Keith Smith guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom was filled with relief and emotion, particularly from Jacqueline's sons, who had long believed Keith was responsible for their mother's death. Valeria Smith, on the other hand, received a 5-year sentence for her role as an accessory after the fact. The court recognized her complicity in covering up the crime, but her cooperation in the case and willingness to testify against her father earned her a reduced sentence. While some viewed her as a victim of Keith's manipulations, others believed she should have received a harsher penalty for failing to intervene in her stepmother's murder. For Jacqueline's family, the verdict brought a sense of closure. Though nothing could undo the pain of losing her, justice had prevailed. Jacqueline's sons, devastated by their mother's senseless death, found solace in knowing that her killer would never walk free again. Jacqueline Smith's story is not just a chilling crime, but a powerful lesson about trust, deception, and the consequences of unchecked greed. The tragic case of Jacqueline Smith is just one of many real-life stories that reveal the darker side of human nature. By learning from these cases, we become more aware, more cautious, and more committed to protecting ourselves and our loved ones. If you found this story thought-provoking and eye-opening, we invite you to subscribe to the Crime Series for more gripping true crime cases that honor victims, uncover the truth, and remind us of the real-world lessons hidden behind these tragic events. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts on this case? What lessons did you take away from it? Share this video with friends and family to raise awareness, because sometimes knowing the truth can help prevent future tragedies. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and take care of your loved ones.